Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
And top of the morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And joining us on this excellent morning is Mr. Govind Dasri, attorney at law, senior legal man. Very good morning to you, Mr. Dasri.
Morning, Faraz.
And it's an absolute pleasure having you on Newsline again. The OMP bill, the Office of the Missing Persons bill. Why is it? What leads Dinesh Gunawardena to say, I think he just sent out a tweet yesterday to say that this was wrong, was unconstitutional, and he says that there are various standing orders that were missed or not complied with. What's he going on about?
I think they are trying to correct an error they have made previously. There are undoubtedly deficiencies in the Act, but there's a time and place where those deficiencies had to be taken. It has to be done in the Supreme Court 1 week after the bill is placed on the order paper. They missed it, and that is a classic deficiency of today's opposition, to miss opportunities that come their way. And having lost that opportunity, they want to make a comeback and put the ball on the Speaker's court and tell him to disallow it. Now, that is not possible, because under the Constitution for us, once a bill is passed, the role of the Speaker is merely to give assent to it. He cannot do anything else. But I challenged him. Now, I read in the papers this morning that there were 3 people, Mr. Gamampila, Mr. G.L. Piris and Dinesh Gunawardena, faulting the Speaker for acting in violation of the Constitution. One of the points they make is that the debate was to go on till the 11th, but they completed it on the 11th. Then they have various complaints relating to the provisions in the Act. If that is so, they still can go to court and challenge it, but I doubt whether they will ever do that, because that chapter is closed. There's a time and a place when you can go to court. They lost the opportunity. Now they are crying over spilt milk, and I think it will just be another purely noisy vocal objection that will never materialize in court, because they can go to court, but they would be thrown out very rapidly.
Is that a good use of being in the opposition by making rather like being a hollow tin, an empty tin, and they make all this noise? Is that the role of the opposition, really?
The opposition must be vigilant. For example, it is their duty. It's only they who can do. The people can't. As people's representatives, they have to examine a bill. And if they are not satisfied, they have to give notice to the public of the bill, so that any member of the public can challenge it, or one of the MPs can challenge it. They just slept over it, and having slept over it, they are now trying to fault the Speaker. And even if they want to fault the Speaker, they can go to court, but I doubt they're doing it, because of what I said earlier. It will be totally meaningless.
But so now it's a question of having been quiet, you're going to have to put up and shut up. Is that what it is? Or do you think that they will exercise the option of going to court?
I don't know what they will do, but certainly they are being noisy. That's all they can do. But the only thing is, it's like empty vessels. They're making noise, but that noise is not registering anywhere. That noise is not effective, but that noise could have been effective. In fact, there are many provisions, Charas, that they could certainly have got omitted from the bill, because if you look at the history of the bill, you could see certain powers that are given to the Commission. Now let us look at it this way. In a normal appointment under the Constitution, it is the President who must nominate names which are either accepted or rejected by the Commission. Here there is a peculiar provision, because this has not been included by the Constitution, but this has been made available by an Act of Parliament. What they have done is the Commission can select 5 persons, but they are restricted. The restriction is one of them must be from the Bar Association or a nominee of the Bar Association, another can be a person from the media, and the third from civil society. Now here again, for us, this is the opportunity I see that the opposition can make use of, because they can put a very good candidate, they can suggest a very good candidate to the Bar Association.
Yeah.
Like for example, I'll give you a name, I mean somebody like former Justice Hector Yapa. Nobody can fault him. And if the UNP or any other party wants to appoint one of their sycophants, I think the Bar Association will have to take serious consideration of a good, honest, sincere, dedicated, able man. So I think the present...
Do you find many such people even now?
You find still very many, but they don't want to come before public scrutiny because they are not interested in being elected. But there are many people in the private sector, in the public sector, retired people still in office.
But isn't it incumbent on such people to, in an act of patriotism, to come forward?
Obviously they should come to the forefront, but they are not people who will want to push themselves. It is, I think, up to the public. People like you, for us, and we have great respect. You are the father of 2 scams that have been unraveled. The one is the central bank, and the coal issue. I mean, you broke the back of the central bank governor and then steamed over the coal. I mean, I think this is another opportunity that you, the media, especially an investigative reporter like you, should throw names forward who are people who are eminent to hold such positions, and once their names are propelled, I think they should stand up and accept it, because if people in positions rather prefer to take a back seat, then this country suffers. But if you leave it to the politicians, they appoint sycophants. So we must have a happy balance, and that is why I think the public in this case, not only the Bar Association, even from the media, they can appoint. I think, for that matter, for us, the media has more eminent, more independent, more forthright, more outspoken people than in the Bar. It should have been the other way, because the Bar can afford. I mean, most of the members of the Bar are they are enriched people, but they are negative. And once again, even civil society should not be these nincompoops who are either pro or anti-war. There are civil society. I mean, look at the children of good governance, the people who brought this government into office. Some of them, I don't think, have agendas. Let them be considered. If that is so, we will have a reasonably fair office of missing persons. Because for us, remember, we already have an excellent report. A report made by Paranagama, an independent person, more so assisted by 3 very eminent people associated with the United Nations war crimes. One of the top flight lawyers, Desmond Silva, and 3 other foreigners equally associated. They have given a very meaningful report, having examined, having met, having discussed with necessary parties, and produced a report. Now that report is just put into the waste basket. We have an LLRC report, which they said was earlier to be whitewashed, subsequently lauded by the foreign press, lauded by those who opposed it. But look at it, both those reports were not acted upon by the last government, and this government too. So when we have good reports, they are dumped into the dustbin. When we have bad reports or bad commissions, they come to the forefront.
Now, Mr. Cumming, talking about these external matters, there are now indications that the US authorities will be more amenable to a situation more in keeping with what our president has said all these months, which is that there would be no foreign judges. And there is some speculation or a thought process that indeed the Americans recognize the particular difficulties that Sri Lanka will have in complying with such a measure, i.e. having foreign judges here. The President is very clear that he is not going to change the Constitution to amend, to accommodate that. And so that aspect appears to be working very much the way that Mr. Sirisena wants it to. So isn't that good news?
It's very good news because our law should be in the forefront. And in our law, it is not possible for foreign judges to come. And it was absolute stupidity on the part of the foreign minister and the prime minister to give such assurance at Geneva, because thereafter we have to backtrack. This is not the first time it happened. If you remember the P. Tom's case, where Chandrika Kumaratunga propelled it, it was against the laws of Britain, it was against the laws of America, it was against the laws of Australia to support any cause that helped terrorism. But they were supposed to fund it. But when we filed action in court and brought these facts to notice, immediately the American government, the Australian government and the British government withdrew funds, because according to their domestic laws they cannot do this. Sometimes what happens is our leaders, uneducated, over-enthusiastic, try to bring in foreign components, foreign financiers, foreign personnel into local operations, which is not permitted. And by their enthusiasm or over-enthusiasm or being misguided, they put the country into shame, because subsequently we have to eat the words that we have set out in our resolution. I mean, this is not the first time. I remember even when immediately after the war, there was an occasion where the representative in Geneva was very supportive of the 13th Amendment, when it was something that was not the policy of the government. So sometimes individuals, politicians, powerful persons take the country for a ride. But when true facts emerge, the foreign governments respect our law. That is what we must do. And once again, all credit to President Sirisena, as I also give credit to President Rajapaksa previously, because he did not allow the P. Toms to go through. If P. Toms came for us, this war would never have been won, because so much of ammunition and arms would have been brought in by the LTT on funds provided for them.
We're expecting to, we may have to go in for a breaking news shortly, and we'll carry on until then. But Mr. Gomin, what are the main exclusions in this? Sorry, no, I didn't mean that. I got it wrong there. On this Office of the Missing Persons, isn't it a doesn't it send all? And that's we'll discuss that after the breaking news. And welcome back to Newsline after that performance from Mr. Hussein Bolt. Gosh, he's fast, isn't he, Mr. Govind Dasri?
Bolt from the blues.
Bolt from the blues, indeed. Tell me, Mr. Dasri, the Office of the Missing Persons, very important, or how important is it? What do you feel?
It's a very useful exercise, because it will give certain degree of comfort to those whose dear ones are missing.
Indeed.
But will this really help in that sense? Because if you look at it, who are the people who are agitating for it? Agitating it are those who are anti-war. People, the Western powers, the NGOs.
Yes, I understand that. They're agitating for it. But But there is a real issue as well, isn't there? Apart from the people who are agitating it, there are real people who've complained that their loved ones, their friends, their family are missing. So we must love them, try to have some closure for them.
That is very useful for them to know what fate became of them. But at the same time, would it mean that today we are enjoying peace because of the armed forces? Is this an effort to elicit evidence that can be used for war crimes against the armed forces who are so beloved of the people because it is they who brought? So that one has two competing factors. We have to balance it. Because if it is merely to provide information of missing people and then fault the armed forces and use this material for such an exercise, then what I'm concerned is, will the reconciliation process, which is the foremost issue in this country at the moment, be unsuccessful, because once again you will get division between the two parties. So I think the prime importance is reconciliation, but at the same time we should, those who have been found missing or disappeared should have their loved ones should have some solace. But will that material be certainly available as evidence against the military? At which stage there would very well be difficulties for this reason. The law of war is quite different to the general law. The law of war for us means only those where the armed forces have deliberately and intentionally targeted, knowing them as civilians with the desire to keep civilians guilty.
So we have Field Marshal Fonseca, General Fonseca, who has consistently maintained that the forces that he commanded have always acted professionally and within internationally accepted norms and rules. However, that doesn't mean that there are people who are claiming that their people are missing and so on, that they mustn't be given a hearing. Surely they must be given a hearing.
They must be given a hearing, and any rogue soldiers should be punished.
Absolutely.
That is necessary. But in the process, if people who have participated in the war with the intention of overcoming terrorism, where there was no intention, deliberate or otherwise, to kill civilians, this should not be used as a vehicle for that purpose. And the danger of this act is the Commission can delegate its functions to any person. Now, in this delegation, are they going to delegate it to very responsible, very balanced, very non-controversial people?
Yes, sorry. Can I just give you a question? One of the viewers has sent in.
Yes,
what is the status of the Maxwell Paranagama Commission now? What happens to the 22,000 plus people who made representations about their missing persons in front of camera?
Very good question. Now, the Maxwell Paranagama report clearly says that there are matters that need be investigated. Not only the LRC report also said that those matters were not investigated by the last government, and that is why we are in this situation. But the Maxwell Paranagama report had as an addendum a brilliant examination of the facts comprehensively by Desmond De Silva and all lawyers highly respected and associated with the UN. They clearly came to a finding that there is no system crimes at all.
There was no systematic plan to kill these people.
There was no intentional, but there were, they very correctly said, there were possibly isolated incidents of killings. Now those should be investigated, But what I'm concerned is whether this forum, if it is entrusted with people who have specific agendas. Now I'm very concerned of one thing. Shall I tell you frankly? I'm very concerned that this government is handing much of these matters to people who are partisan. I would say people like Lalu Jenayaka, people like Pakasose Saranamuttu, people like Muttugum are not fit to hold these positions because they have definite views. Just as much as Gominda Asri or Gunadasa Amarasekar or S.L. Gunasekar are not fit for such jobs. You must fix people like Mr. Palihakkara, Mr. Paranagama, Mr. C.R. De Silva of the LLRC. You must put objective people, not people who speak, who have, at least I have changed some of my views, but some others haven't. But you must not put hardliners, people who are groping for information to punish.
Indeed.
And that is the mistake this government has done.
We got another viewer who says, was there willful elimination of a race, not by the army or any services, but by people who are suspected of willful killings?
I do not think there was any intention of willful killings, because there are two aspects of in war crimes. One is excessive power being used. Yes. Other is intentional.
Well, I think this view is saying that the army, it's not the army, but what perhaps this view is asking is whether there were paramilitary forces outside of the official forces who engaged in sort of killings. I
did just one case of this nature, the Mutur case, and there was some evidence that there were certain disenchanted Muslims of Mutur who were involved in some kind of killings, because there had been killings of Muslims on suspicion of being spies. But there is no conclusive evidence. But one thing is clear: this country is safe and secure today because of the military, because of the great victory they overcame terrorism. Now, these people who are very much with the terrorists, who are encouraging terrorism or who are not speaking against terrorism, today have a voice, have an opportunity to express themselves. They should not make this opportunity to once again create rifts in the society. I think for us what we need is, we must not open wounds, we must close wounds and become one nation.
Indeed, but also, Ms. Dashri, I put it to you that we cannot allow this sort of myopia to overtake us, and we must be mindful that there are people in this country, this is also their country as much as it is mine and yours and everybody else. This is one nation, and therefore we must have a robust facility for them to express and not to wallow in some sort of self-pity, but to move forward.
I quite agree, because if you remember, there were 800 policemen who were killed. Some say alleged a particular politician who was then a terrorist. But all those things are there. I mean, we must examine them, but it should not be carried to the extent of opening up wounds that will create rifts between communities. Now, I think today both the SLFP and the UNP and most political parties except the TNA is extremely keen to have a reconciliation process. And I think that must continue, because you see, for us, to me, our generation is at fault. We must not be the people who must sit on this. The next generation, I think, will not carry these wounds. They are in a better position to solve these problems. I think we should step back and give the place to the next generation who are already there. I mean, look at our cricket team. Look how well the young boys did. I mean, the oldies, the golden oldies stayed too long. I think today also in this society, in our political context, the golden oldies are there too much. It's not me or you. The new generation must find answers, and they will be far more objective than you and I.
Wonderful. Govindasri, many thanks indeed for being on Newsline. We do appreciate your presence, and we look forward to welcoming you on our network at another time.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. You're most kind. And thank you very much for having watched Newsline. We're here Monday through to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Do join us, where we'll be discussing the matters that are close to your thought process. Take care, have a great weekend, and God bless.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.